I was standing in the rain for exactly 47 minutes when I realized my marriage had already ended. I just hadn't been told yet. The water soaked through my dress, clinging to my skin, cold and heavy, like every word he'd thrown at me the night before. "If you really want this marriage," he had said, calm and cruel, "you'll prove it. Be outside tomorrow at 6. Wait until I'm ready to talk." So I came. Because I still believed in us. Because I thought love meant fixing things. Even if you weren't the one who broke them. Cars passed slowly, their headlights cutting through the downpour. I could feel people staring. A woman standing alone in the rain outside her own house. It looked pathetic. And maybe I was. I checked my phone. 6:47 p.m. No message, no call. Just silence. Inside, I could see the lights on. He was home. Dry, comfortable. Probably watching TV like nothing had happened. And suddenly, something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Just clarity. I replayed everything in my head. The late nights, the locked phone. The way he started correcting how I spoke, how I dressed, how I laughed. Like I was slowly becoming someone he tolerated instead of someone he loved. And last night, the truth slipped out so casually. There are other women who don't make things this difficult. Not was. Or was plural. I swallowed hard, rain mixing with tears I refused to let fall properly. And still I came today. Because I thought maybe this was rock bottom. Maybe this was the moment things would turn around. But standing there, shivering, watching my own reflection in the dark window, I realized something else. He didn't want forgiveness. He wanted control. Another car slowed down. This one didn't pass. It stopped right in front of me. For a second, I thought it might be him, finally deciding to come out. Maybe he'd open the door, run toward me, apologize, wrap me in his arms like the man I married. But instead, the driver's door opened, and a man stepped out holding an umbrella. "Are you Sarah?" he asked carefully. I hesitated. "Yes," he nodded, walking closer and shielding me from the rain. "I'm sorry to meet you like this. I tried calling earlier, but I think you didn't have your phone." I blinked. "Who are you?" He gave a small, professional smile. "I'm your husband's lawyer." That's when the world went completely quiet. Not the rain, not the cars, just everything inside me. "He asked me to deliver something to you personally," he continued, pulling a folder from his briefcase. I stared at it like it might explode. "Divorce papers," he said gently. "Of course they were. Of course." I let out a small laugh, the kind that doesn't sound like laughter at all. "So this was the plan." He didn't answer, but his silence said enough. "He made me stand out here." I whispered, more to myself than to him. "In the rain to serve me divorce papers." The lawyer looked genuinely uncomfortable. "I'm sorry. I don't control how my clients choose to handle personal matters." I took the folder with trembling hands. My name was already printed neatly across the top. Everything was prepared. Everything was decided. Without me. I looked past the lawyer straight at the house. At the man who was probably watching this from behind the curtains. Waiting. Not to fix anything. But to see if I'd break. For a long moment, I said nothing. Then I straightened my shoulders. "Do you have a pen?" I asked. The lawyer seemed surprised. "Yes." He handed it to me. Right there, under the rain, I flipped through the pages. My vision blurred, but I didn't wipe my eyes this time. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't crying anymore. I was done. I signed every page, calmly, carefully, like I had been waiting for this moment all along. When I finished, I handed the folder back. The lawyer blinked. You don't want to review anything? Negotiate terms?" I gave a small smile. "Oh, I will," I said. "Just not tonight?" He nodded slowly, understanding something in my tone that I didn't need to explain. "Good night," he said, before walking back to his car. I stood there for a second longer. Then I turned toward the house. And instead of going to the door, I walked away. I didn't knock. I didn't scream. I didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart. Because the truth hit me all at once, sharper than the cold rain ever could. He thought this was the moment he won. He thought making me wait, humiliating me, breaking me down, would make me small enough to accept anything. But he miscalculated one thing. Silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes, it's the beginning of something far more dangerous. The next morning, I didn't call him. I called my own lawyer. By the end of the week, everything changed. The house. Half mine, the accounts he thought I didn't know about. Documented. The other women. Turns out, they weren't as discreet as he believed. I didn't shout, I didn't chase. I just moved strategically, quietly. And when he finally realized what was happening, when the papers came back revised, When the numbers didn't favor him anymore. When his control started slipping. That's when he called me. Over and over I let it ring. Because I remembered that night. Standing in the rain. Waiting. Feeling small. And I promised myself something right then. Something I never broke. I would never wait for him again. The last message he sent was simple. Can we talk? I looked at it for a long time. Then I smiled. And deleted it. Because the man who made me stand in the rain to prove my love ended up standing alone, watching everything he took for granted walk away, without ever getting a second chance to ask for forgiveness. I saw him watching me from behind the curtain, while I signed the divorce papers in the rain. And that was the exact moment I decided he wasn't going to win this. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. Not because I was sad, not because I couldn't sleep, but because for the first time in a long time, my mind was quiet. No anxiety about where he was. No fear of saying the wrong thing. No walking on eggshells in my own home. Just silence and clarity. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and looked around the house that used to feel like mine, until he slowly turned it into a place where I had to ask for permission just to exist peacefully. Funny how you don't notice the shift until it's too late. But I notice now. Every little thing. The way my favorite chair had been replaced because he didn't like how it looked. The way my books were boxed up and stored because they were cluttering the aesthetic. The way I had been reduced to something temporary in my own life. I took a deep breath. Then I picked up my phone and made the most important call of my life. My name is Sarah, I said when the line connected. And I need a lawyer. By noon, I was sitting across from a woman named Danielle, sharp eyes, calm voice, the kind of presence that made you feel like nothing slipped past her. She didn't waste time. Tell me everything, she said. And I did, not emotionally, not dramatically. Just facts, dates, changes, behavior, financial patterns. The moment I realized he wasn't asking for forgiveness, he was testing how far he could push me. When I finished, she leaned back slightly and nodded. Good, she said. I frowned. Good, you didn't react emotionally last night. You signed, but you didn't agree to anything blindly. That gives us room. Room. That was all I needed. Because he thought I had already surrendered. He thought the woman standing in the rain would stay exactly where he left her. He had no idea she walked away. The next few days were quiet. On purpose, I didn't call him. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't respond to the 2 messages he sent. Where are you? We need to discuss terms. No. He needed to discuss terms. I was already building mine. Danielle and I went through everything, bank accounts, property documents, tax returns. And that's when the real cracks started to show. Did you know about this account? She asked, sliding a document toward me. I looked down. No, I didn't. But I wasn't surprised. There are more, she said calmly. Hidden transfers. Irregular deposits. He's been moving money. I let out a slow breath. Of course he had. Because men like him don't just control emotions. They control narratives. Money. Power. And they assume you'll never look closely enough to challenge them. But I was looking now. Very closely. Can we use this? I asked. She gave a small smile. Oh, we're not just going to use this, she said. We're going to rebuild the entire conversation around it. And that's exactly what we did. A week later, his lawyer received the revised documents. Not aggressive, not emotional, just precise. Every hidden account listed, every asset accounted for, every inconsistency highlighted so clearly it couldn't be ignored. And then we waited. It didn't take long. That same evening, my phone started ringing. His name flashed across the screen. Once, twice, 5 times. I watched it like it belonged to someone else. Then a message came through. What is this? I didn't respond. Another call. Then another message. Who are you talking to? I smiled slightly, because that question said everything. Not what did I do? Not how did this happen? But who helped you? Because in his mind, I was never capable of this on my own. That was his biggest mistake. The calls kept coming the next day. This time, there was something new in them. Not anger, panic. He left a voicemail. Sarah, we don't need to do this like this. Just talk to me. I listened to it once. Then deleted it. Because I remembered every moment he chose silence when I needed answers. Every time I asked, can we talk? And he walked away like I wasn't worth the effort. Now suddenly I was. Interesting how that works. A few days later we met. Not at the house. Not anywhere personal. A quiet office. Neutral ground. He looked different. Not broken. But shaken. Like someone who just realized the rules had changed. And he wasn't the one controlling them anymore. He tried to smile when I walked in. I didn't. You look different, he said. I am, I replied calmly. We sat down. His lawyer started talking, but I wasn't listening. I was watching him. The way his fingers tapped nervously against the table. The way he avoided eye contact when certain documents were mentioned. The way his confidence, once so effortless, kept slipping piece by piece. Finally, he spoke directly to me. Why are you doing this? He asked. And for a second I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was unbelievable. Doing what? I asked quietly. This, he gestured vaguely, making it complicated. I held his gaze. You made me stand in the rain, I said softly. To prove my love, while you were already planning to leave. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. And now, I continued, you're surprised I learned how to stand on my own. Silence. Heavy, uncomfortable. Final. That meeting ended very differently than he expected. Not because I destroyed him, but because I didn't need to. I just took back what was mine. Fairly, legally, completely. And when it was over, when everything was signed, finalized, and done, he looked at me one last time and said almost quietly, I didn't think you'd change like this. I paused at the door, then turned slightly. I didn't change, I said. You just never noticed who I really was. And then I walked away, not in anger, not in pain, but in something far more powerful. Peace. Because the man, who made me wait in the rain for forgiveness, ended up waiting for a version of me that was never coming back. He showed up at my office 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, holding flowers like none of it had ever happened. I almost didn't recognize him at first, not because he looked different, but because I did. I was walking out of the building, keys in one hand, phone in the other, already thinking about my next meeting, my next move, my next step forward, when I saw him standing there, shifting his weight like he didn't belong. For a second, I thought I was imagining it, but then he stepped closer. Sarah. Just my name, soft, careful. Like he was afraid it might break. I stopped, not out of emotion, out of curiosity, because this was the same man who once made me stand in the rain like I was disposable. And now he looked like someone waiting for permission to even exist in my space. You look good, he said, forcing a smile. I didn't respond to that. I just glanced at the flowers. They're not for me, I said calmly. His smile faltered. They are. I shook my head slightly. No. They're for the version of me you thought would still be waiting. That hit him. I saw it in his eyes. That quiet realization that whatever control he once had was gone. I just want to talk, he said quickly. 5 minutes. That's it, 5 minutes. It was almost funny. Because I remembered begging for 5 minutes of his attention, and getting silence in return. Now suddenly, 5 minutes mattered. I checked the time on my phone. Not because I was considering it, but because I wanted him to see how little it meant to me now. You can talk? I said. I'm listening. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. I messed up, he said. I know that. I stayed quiet. I thought, he hesitated, searching for the right words. I thought you'd fight harder for us. There it was. That same twisted logic. That same belief that love should look like suffering. I tilted my head slightly. You made me stand in the rain. His eyes dropped. I know. No, I said softly. You don't. He looked back up, and this time there was something raw in his expression. I was angry, he said. I thought you were pulling away. You thought I'd stay no matter what. I cut in. Silence. Because that was the truth. And when I didn't, I continued. You realized you were wrong. He swallowed hard. I didn't expect you to turn it around like that. Of course he didn't. He expected tears, begging, breakdown. Not strategy. Not silence. Not strength. I didn't turn anything around, I said. I just stopped playing a game I didn't agree to. The wind picked up slightly, brushing past us. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he held the flowers out again, almost desperately this time. Can we try again, he asked. And there it was. The final test. Not for me. For him. Because this was the part where, in his mind, the story could still be rewritten. Where the woman he underestimated might still soften. Might still remember the good moments. Might still choose him. I looked at the flowers. Then at him. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt nothing. No longing. Just distance. You don't miss me, I said quietly. He frowned. I do. I shook my head. No, you miss control. That landed harder than anything else. Because it wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was just true. I've changed, he insisted. Maybe, I said. But I've moved on. He stepped closer. Sarah, please. I took a step back, not aggressively, not emotionally, just enough to remind him where the line was now. You taught me something that night, I said. He went still. When you left me standing in the rain, you showed me exactly how much I meant to you. His face tightened. And when I walked away, I continued. I showed myself how much I should have meant all along. The space between us felt bigger now. Not physically, but in every way that mattered. I'm not that woman anymore, I said. His voice dropped. I know. But he didn't. Not really. Because if he did, he wouldn't be standing here, asking for something that no longer existed. I glanced at the flowers one last time. Give those to someone who's still waiting, I said. Then I walked past him. No hesitation. No second look. Just forward. Because that's what he never understood. I didn't win by hurting him. I didn't win by proving anything to him. I won the moment I realized I didn't need him to regret losing me. I just needed to stop waiting for him to choose me. I found out he was trying to contact my new office again. But this time, I never even saw his messages, because I had already removed access to every part of my life he once controlled. New number, new email, new boundaries, not out of fear, out of peace. 2 months had passed since the divorce was finalized, and life had settled into something I didn't recognize at first. Because it didn't feel like survival anymore. It felt like living. I had moved into a smaller apartment across town. Quiet street, morning sunlight, no memories attached to the walls. The kind of place where you don't hear echoes of arguments in the silence. Just your own thoughts. And for the first time, those thoughts didn't hurt. Work had become my anchor. Not an escape, an upgrade. I focused on building things that were mine. Projects, decisions, routines that didn't require permission or explanation. My name was on everything, my effort, my results. No hidden agendas, no silent competition, just progress. One afternoon, while reviewing documents at my desk, my assistant knocked and stepped in. There's someone here to see you, she said. I didn't look up immediately. Do they have an appointment? She hesitated. No, but they insisted it was important. I sighed softly, closing the file in front of me. Who is it? She lowered her voice slightly. It's your ex-husband. I didn't react right away. Not because I was surprised, but because it didn't carry the same weight anymore. Send him away, I said calmly. She nodded, but before she could leave, I added, she turned back. Tell him. I continued, I don't meet people without appointments anymore. Not out of arrogance, but because access is earned now, not assumed. She left, and I went back to my work. No racing thoughts. No urge to look out the window. No emotional pull to go see what he wanted this time. Because deep down, I already knew. Closure doesn't always come from conversations. Sometimes it comes from consistency. From choosing yourself enough times that the past stops feeling like something unresolved and starts feeling like something completed. A few days later, I ran into someone unexpected. Not him, but someone who knew him. A mutual acquaintance from before everything fell apart. We exchanged polite greetings, small talk, the usual surface level updates. Then, almost casually, they said something that stayed with me. I heard he's been asking about you. I nodded slightly. That's not surprising. He didn't expect things to end the way they did. They added. I smiled faintly. Most people don't expect consequences until they arrive. They looked at me for a moment, as if trying to understand the version of me sitting in front of them now. Do you ever think about going back? They asked. The question wasn't offensive. I shook my head. No, not quickly, not defensively. Just honestly. They seemed to accept that. People change, they said. I agreed. They do. But not always in the direction others hope. That evening, I sat by my window with a cup of tea, watching the city move beneath the fading light. No notifications demanding my attention. No unresolved conversations pulling me back. Just stillness. And in that stillness, something became very clear to me. What he tried to create that night in the rain wasn't just control. It was dependency. He wanted to see if I would bend enough to stay. But instead, he revealed something he didn't expect. That I could stand in discomfort without losing myself. That I could endure silence without chasing validation. That I could walk away without needing permission to do so. And once I saw that, there was no going back to who I was before. Not because I became colder, but because I became aware. Aware of my worth. Aware of my boundaries. Aware that love should never feel like a test you're constantly failing. My phone buzzed once on the table. Unknown number. I glanced at it, then ignored it. Not because I was avoiding something, but because nothing on the other end had the power to disrupt my peace anymore. And that realization was the real ending, not the divorce, not the papers, not the silence, but the moment I stopped reacting to a life that no longer included me in its center. He once made me wait in the rain, believing that would bring me closer to him. Instead, it pushed me far enough away to finally see the truth. And now, months later, while he was still trying to find a way back into my life, I had already arrived somewhere he could never follow. A place where I didn't need him, didn't miss him, and didn't look back. And for the first time since everything began, that was the quiet victory he never saw coming.